Ancient Greece consisted of many city-states. And in the 8th century BC, these city-states were at war with each other. They were struggling to dominate each other. The Spartans were perhaps the most famous of these city-states worldwide. They had a strong military force, which they started training from a young age. In this video, we will tell you about Sparta's invasion of the city-state of Messenia and the rebellions that followed after the invasion. Among the Greek city-states, Sparta placed the greatest emphasis on military training and the art of war. They maintained constantly prepared and organized armies, which allowed them to occupy and control a region under their authority. The people of Messenia were the border neighbors of the Spartans. They had more fertile lands than the Spartans and were skilled in agriculture. They had a light armored irregular army. In the rural areas surrounding the city of Messenia, there were many farmers, and capturing the city of Messenia meant having a large agricultural land. In 743 BC, the Spartans launched a campaign to capture and enslave the land of Messenia. They had a regular army of approximately 5,000 heavily armored soldiers. The majority of these armies were called hoplites, which were heavily armored military units that fought with a large shield and a spear. Most of these armies were heavy infantry units known as hoplites, who fought with large shields and spears. The Messenians, on the other hand, had a disorganized army of about 4,000 soldiers who were lightly armored and could move quickly. While they were not strong enough to withstand a Spartan attack, they could perhaps wear down the invaders with quick and effective strikes. The two armies clashed near Amphia, with the lightly armed Messenian troops spread out across a wide terrain, attempting to wear down the Spartans with arrows. Messenians had to wait for Spartan attacks and retreat every time. They couldn't break through the shield wall formed by hoplites. They couldn't disrupt Spartan attacks or their army formation. Messenians suffered heavy losses in every attack by Spartans. The troops stationed in the mountains couldn't stop the advancing Spartans towards the city. Spartans advanced towards the Messenian city by setting up their camp. Although the Messenians in the mountains tried to raid the Spartan camps, they were not successful. Spartans reached the city gates. The majority of the Messenian army had been lost and their remaining troops gave up on fighting and scattered. Their defense was broken. Spartans easily took over the city. Thus, the First Messenian War had come to an end with a great victory for the Spartans. They looted the city and made many Messenian peasants slaves and took them to Sparta. For close to 80 years, the Spartans ruled the land of Messenia. In the year 660 BC, with the support of other Greek city-states who feared Sparta, the Messenians rebelled for their freedom. The leader of the rebellion was a man named Aristomenes, who declared himself the king of Messenia. He claimed to belong to the Epidid family, one of the royal families of Greece. The Messenians fought a battle called the Battle of Deers with their forces. It was a field battle fought against the Spartans, and the Messenians won. However, they had suffered heavy losses. Nonetheless, they had broken the Spartans' dominance over Messenia. The city-states of Arcadia and Argos had declared their support for the Messenians against the Spartans. They kept their word and came with their armies. Arcadia came with a large army. The Messenians, joined by the armies of Arcadia and Argos, were going to have a pitched battle with Sparta. This was going to be a major battle and would be called the Battle of the Great Foss. However, before the battle, the Spartans contacted the Arcadian leaders. They offered a large treasure and a non-aggression pact in exchange for their withdrawal from the conflict and cessation of aid to the Messenians. The Arcadians accepted this offer, but Messenians and Argosians were unaware of it. As a result of these developments, the Spartans faced the armies of Messenia, Argos, and Arcadia. The armies were almost equal in strength. Facing a heavily armored and trained army like the Spartans in a battlefield was a courageous move. When the battle began, both armies charged towards each other, but as predetermined before the battle, the Arcadian army did not attack. As a result, the Spartans easily defeated the rebellious Messenian army and the small Argos army. The victory belonged to the Spartans. Thus, Battle of the Great Foss came to an end. Messenian king Aristomenes survived the battle and withdrew to Mount Ira. Later, the Spartans besieged the mountain and captured Aristomenes and the remaining rebels. Thus, the Spartans regained their rule over the land of Messenia. Later, the Messenians rose up against the Spartans again during the uprising that followed the aftermath of an earthquake. However, they couldn't create an organization during this uprising that lasted for a few years, and the Spartans easily suppressed this rebellion. Thus, the people of Messenia came completely under the rule of Sparta. The Spartans are a great example of how civilizations that were once powerful in ironworking and military tradition were skilled. Exploring history is like taking a journey through the memory of the universe. You can take a look at our videos and discover the mysterious world of the past. See you in the next videos.